Okay, hello everyone. My name is Keanu and welcome to my channel, Hacking the Race. This channel focuses on the strategy behind the amazing race. So if that's something of interest to you, please give my channel a sub. Today we are analyzing and recapping episode 1 of season 35, which just premiered yesterday. Also on the side, I am recapping season 21, so look out for that content. But I just wanted to go straight into the episode. The first interesting thing that Phil brings up at the pit start is there is the introduction of the mandatory U-turn vote. So whichever team gets voted the most gets U-turned at some point in the race. Now, the first thing I think of is the question you may ask yourself is, should we not race too hard? Because if we race too hard or win too much, we're just going to put a target on our backs. I wouldn't understand why you wouldn't race as hard as you can. Like, even if you do get U-turned, you're here to win. You're not going to play in fear of getting U-turned, I think more importantly, the way you want to adjust your strategy is you may want to be more sociable than what you were thinking going in. So, often there may be a team or two in the season that isolates themselves, like doesn't want to talk to the other teams and feels like they want to run their own race. Well, that's just going to put a target on your back. They're going to think you're untrustworthy and you'll be more likely to be voted to get you turned off. So I think you just got to be more social, maybe even make alliances. And even though I hate alliance making on the Amazing Race, it's to an extent, like no answer sharing, which, teams do actually in this episode. But, part of the race is the social game, and you cannot ignore the social aspect of the show. And so this twist will definitely ramp up the social game in the season. So the first task is to drive to the Biltmore Hotel. I like the self-drive right from the start. And at the Biltmore Hotel, the roadblock asks, who wants to be above it all? So with every roadblock, there's the question, and then the team has to decide which partner gets to do the task. When they ask a question, you need to look into the context. Or like context clues. So for example, who wants to be above? Above is the key word. And I liked how Andrea and Milena reasoned who would get to do the roadblock, because someone said it sounds high, and then the person who was not afraid of heights did the task. I think it was one of the more interesting moments was Alexandra and Sheridan being extremely indecisive with who was doing the roadblock. I wrote down some quotes here. This was Alexandra and Sheridan. Just pick. No, you pick. I don't care. It's up to you. Do you want me to do it? Like, that's such a waste of time. I think if you come to an impasse and cannot decide who's going to do it, you should have a strategy in place that, okay, if we can't decide, you are going to do it. Rather than waste, a few crucial seconds, maybe even a minute, because it's just ultimately very unproductive. But it was very entertaining to watch. Also, I just want to call it because in my cast assessment, the way that team was answering the interview questions, it was as if they were looking at each other and trying to get each other's, trying to validate their answers with their partners. And I just knew that they were going to be indecisive, and to see it play out on TV validated me for predicting that. But anyhow, so the actual challenge, they had to, tightrope from one building to the next. And, I'm no expert, but I think approaching this with a slow and steady pace is probably what's best, because what determines the outcome of this challenge isn't who's afraid of heights, it's more so the puzzle at the very end. So when Anna Lee did it super fast, I think it was kind of unnecessary. She nearly fell multiple times and could have, painted a target on their back. Ultimately, I don't think it really matters that much, but you're doing this in front of all the other teams watching from below. And so there were some comments to them were like, oh, she's fast. She's really good at this. So, that will get some heads turning on them potentially. The word puzzle was very difficult. It was a couple weeks ago, I think they showed a picture of the roadblock, and I tried doing it for 10 minutes and I couldn't even figure it out. Who knows? And then if you're on the race, I'm sure your anxiety is even amplified further. But so it was a very difficult puzzle. It took the teams at least 50 minutes. I mean, in hindsight's 2020, but if a puzzle like this ever comes up again, I mean, they've done this on Survivor before too. Like, some things you want to look out for are any like suffixes or prefixes. In this case, there weren't any. But if there's an S on there, you would assume that S would be for a plural word. So, for example, the angels was the plural word. You definitely want to figure out the 2-letter word, so it was of. And you want to use the place you are in for context, because it's likely not going to be something that is just out of left field. So if you are in Los Angeles, is there anything about the city of Los Angeles that would clue you in here? I also appreciated Greg and John. I don't know which brother said it or did the challenge, but they broke it down to how many letters are in each word. So they were definitely systematic in that. I think the answer sharing was a misstep taken by some teams. So at first, Victor figures it out, or he's the third person to figure it out. But when he figures it out, he tells like 3 other teams. And I'm like, why are you sharing? Why are you sharing? The only reason why I thought he would share is because maybe earlier on he said like, oh, if any of us figures it out, then we'll tell each other. And maybe because he had promised that, then he would think that other teams would find him untrustworthy if he did not reveal what he figured out. But the con of that is then he tells Todd, and then Todd tells everyone. I think the more egregious mistake is by Todd, by telling everyone. It seems like his incentive in doing so is just to get in front of the line, but there really is no incentive if no one in front of you knows the answer. It's just a big mistake for many reasons. You are trying to get on the first flight, and you don't even know how many teams get on that first flight. So if you tell every team behind you, the gap between you and the other teams is minimal, maybe, a couple of minutes. Whereas if you had just given Derek and Claire the answer, you would have a greater buffer to make sure you got on the first flight. Granted, they got on the first flight, but I'm just saying, I don't know. It was definitely a risk telling the other teams. You just never want to share the answer and just give it away, because, it also makes for bad TV. It's just like not fun, but I get it, I guess. Okay, let's just move on to Thailand, because, the teams who got to the airport first, the first 6 teams got it, and there really isn't much to say about that. So we get to Bangkok, Thailand, and the teams have to travel by taxi to Wat Phok Nam, which is this big Buddha statue. It looked absolutely beautiful. The Express Pass is back. So let's talk about whether or not a team should go for the Express Pass, or at least see if a clue is taken. If you're on the first flight and you haven't seen any other teams around, you should at least go to the Express Pass, especially if it's nearby, and in this case it was, to just see if someone took it. And if someone didn't take it, then you should go for it, because you have that 90-minute buffer with the second flight. So as long as you can complete the challenge within the 90 minutes, like you're chilling. The only team that made that mistake is Todd and Ashley. They were the only team that did not want to go for the Express Pass, even though it seemed that they didn't know which place they were in. So I did not like that from them. The second flight should not have gone for it because you should assume that someone had already taken it. The Express Pass challenge itself was pretty crazy. I definitely think it's one of the hardest challenges in a while. I mean, I didn't think that both teammates had to eat the plate, so the fact that they did made it even more challenging because you couldn't rely on just one partner just wolfing them down. Like each person had to hold their own. And I thought it was super badass of Morgan and Lena to pull through. I really enjoyed their bickering towards each other, and it definitely reminded me of my relationship with siblings, kind of, bantering back and forth, or I could imagine us doing that. So definitely hard. I was on Twitter, and I think the CBS asked a question like, would you do this roadblock? Or no, would you do this express pass? And a lot of people in the comments were like, no. And the fact that, most people playing from their couch will say, oh, that's easy, that's easy. And you have these people playing on their couch saying, no, there's no way I would do it, tells you that it's a good, hard challenge. So if that is a sign of how difficult these challenges will be this season, I am definitely excited to watch. I mean, when you saw the tarantula, like that is a tarantula. It's not cut up in little pieces. It's full on the spider. And I don't even know what the other bugs were, but it was nasty. So, so they get the express pass. The other route info says you have to travel to Wat Sutat. You have to travel by boat and then a tuk-tuk. There's nothing too interesting there. So let's just go to the detour. The detour is swordplay versus spa day. So we need to talk about like which detour should you choose. I think the clear answer is spa day. And the reason is if there is a challenge where it's just mind over matter, you should choose that mind over matter challenge versus a skill challenge, which is the swordplay. Because if you think you're going to win the race, you better have that mindset that you can do anything. And if it's just enduring some pain during a massage, then you should do it. Also, it seemed that the teams knew that it was just going to be a 30-minute challenge, and therefore you have to think, okay, do you think you can learn a choreographed routine in less than 30 minutes? And if the answer is no, then you should clearly do the spa challenge, because it's at the very maximum. If everything goes well, it's going to be 30 minutes. And in general, it just seemed easier. Also, you get a massage, that's nice. So, and I don't want to downplay it because obviously it looks super painful, but it's still a massage, and people get these massages for pleasure. So swordplay, they had to learn a 30-second routine. I liked the decision from Andrea and Milena to eventually switch, because it was clear that they were not going to get it. And it's good that they recognized that right away. It did not look like they were close at all of getting that routine. So even though their placement did dwindle to, I believe it was 10th or 11th place, what matters most is you're not last place. And that is what you should be prioritizing. And had they stayed, maybe they could have gone in last place. Joe and Ian, I like their strategy of breaking the choreography into sections. There's this thing called blocked learning, where you learn one part, you block off whatever you're trying to learn. Let's say it's a piano piece. You learn the first section, then the next, and then the next, and then you just kind of string it together. I think that's a very systematic approach. Obviously, easier said than done. Is that the right phrase? Yes, easier said than done, but they followed through with their strategy, and it seemed to help them a lot. So much so that they even bypassed some of the teams that did spa day. So I guess if you are superhumans and super skilled like Joe and Ian or dancers, then maybe this one was the right one for you. But I feel like in most cases it's not. So the other challenge is spa day. We got to talk about read the clue. And maybe Todd and Ashley did read the clue, but he was just, just being a little bit much. So somewhere in the additional info of the clue, it says like you cannot like tell the masseuse to stop, or you can't tell them to stop. And Todd had said wait, and therefore incurred the penalty of having to reset the 30-minute timer. So not good, honestly, not good from Todd and Ashley. I mean, it's Todd mostly that's making these like little mini mistakes that, doesn't really cost them too much on this episode, but I can see it costing them something in a future episode. The hot take for me is Jocelyn. I thought I had heard her say stop at one point. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And if she did not get penalized, but should have gotten penalized, and they would not have gotten first. So there's that. This challenge reminded me there was this like Turkish hot bath challenge in season 21, and I only remember it because I've just watched the season. And it seemed like that was the clear challenge to do as well, where you just had to endure the X amount of minutes of the massage or the treatment, and it seemed like that would actually freshen everyone up, like your body is looser and stuff. So just wanted to talk about that. An interesting decision has to be made between Liz and Ilyana, and this is a very hard decision. I mean, you are assuming you're in last place, and they would be right to assume that they were in last place. And they get to a challenge where they essentially just have to wait until another team finishes. And so every team that's there, you cannot get ahead of. Whereas in other challenges, you arrive and you can potentially finish before someone else because it's just whoever figures it out first. This one is just, you just have to wait until everyone finishes. And to make that decision of, do I stay at this side of the detour or go to the next side of the detour while you're in last place and it's the first episode and you think you're going to get eliminated? I mean, what a weight on your shoulders. I originally was thinking you should just go to the other challenge because at least that one, like, you can prove your skill and improve your position. I was also thinking that if there's only 5 teams that can get the massage at a time, and there were 7 teams. Oh, no. Okay, I had my math wrong. I was thinking there were 6 teams on the second flight. And so I would have assumed that the 5 other teams on that flight were at the spa. And so you would know you are definitely in that place. But now that I think of it, there are 7 teams on the second flight. So if you're doing your math correctly, you should assume there's at least one other team behind you or at the other detour. Ultimately, I really liked, I believe it's Ilyana, the daughter's, like, rationale that, by the time we get to the other detour swordplay, if we were to go there, like, we'd have to change, learn the routine, and then, get it approved. Like, by the time that happens, there'll probably be multiple teams that would be done with the massage. So I think it was the correct decision to stay there, but that required a lot of reasoning to get right. And I do believe they had the right reasoning. So very, very good on them. Yeah. Okay, moving on. So, I just want to talk about the biggest mistakes and lessons here. So, or let's just talk about the pit stop first, I guess. So Jocelyn and Victor get first. I'm super into it. I mean, Jocelyn maybe set a stop in the challenge earlier, but I love to see the older couple getting first, and they definitely proved me wrong. I am gonna go through the entire each team one by one and my quick thoughts on them. But so they get first, and last place is Alexandra and Sheridan. But more on that later. Because this channel focuses more on the strategy, I want to highlight the 3 biggest mistakes and therefore lessons to take home after. So the first biggest mistake is just being indecisive. Being indecisive on The Amazing Race is just not productive. And I don't think I've ever seen a more indecisive team than Alexandra and Sheridan. It was bad. Time is crucial. And you cannot waste like, oh no, you do it. No, maybe I should do it. No, you choose. No, I don't know. It's not a good look. And there were multiple instances in which their indecisiveness cut them a lot of time. So that's a huge mistake. Like I said earlier, if you're going to be indecisive on something, you should have at least a backup plan of who's going to do the roadblock or who's ultimately going to get the final say. So the second biggest mistake is choosing the wrong side of the detour. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, but the bad detour choice in this case would have been swordplay because it just requires a lot of skill. And if you can go for the unskilled task versus the skilled task, then definitely choose the unskilled task. And the third biggest mistake is answer sharing. I mean, there's a time and place to do it. If you are in a tight alliance with, another team or 2 other teams, and you're ahead of the group and there is no risk of falling behind, then go ahead and answer share. But if you are sharing the answer with all of the teams and basically are making it an equalizer, you just don't have good game sense and don't understand what it takes to get ahead. Let's just go through the teams in order of finish. So, Jocelyn and Victor, like I said, they proved me wrong. I mean, they seem like the only team that has one backpack, so they clearly did their research. There have been many teams in the past that have brought one backpack, and usually most of them do well. Sorry, Asa and Nina. They seemed methodical. They seemed they weren't making any quick decisions. They were thoughtful with their decisions. I was very happy to see them win. It's just an easy team to root for. And I also thought they had a sense of humor that I wasn't expecting. One of my favorite lines from the entire episode is from Jocelyn when she gets when she finishes the spa day challenge. She says, if I didn't know better, I'd swear she's my enemy. And then the masseuse gives her a clue and then she bows. It was, I thought that was very endearing. Second place team goes to Rob and Corey. They also proved me wrong. I did not think that they were going to be as good at the race as they did on this first leg. They are definitely the team dark horse. Yeah. I also appreciated Rob's facial expressions. I'm not sure if because he does not talk regularly that he is more expressive with his face, and to see his facial expressions just reacting to what's around him, for example at spa day, he's just looking around and reacting to other people grimacing in pain. It was interesting to see. So I definitely hope they stick around and do well. The next team is Greg and John. They did very well this episode. They're the first team to get to the Biltmore, or first or second team to get the Biltmore Hotel. They're the first team to figure out the puzzle. They're the first team to get to the airport. They're the third team to arrive at the pit stop. I appreciated the hustle. One of them decided to, after the boat ride in Thailand, they had to take the tuk-tuk to the detour. one of them decided, hey, let's not be around the other teams. Let's go over here so we don't have to fight over the tuk-tuks. And that appeared to be a good move. So there's nothing that it seemed that they did wrong. And they are my winner pick, even from the cast assessment. So good on them. Elena and Morgan, badass, or no, it's Lena and Morgan, I believe. Badass women. The way that they were just shoveling down those crickets, those tarantulas down their throat. Not everyone will do that. And to see a female team do that was, I enjoyed it. I do think that they have a big target on their backs. Even though they did not get first place, they did get the express pass. And so I can see them being the U-turn target, everyone voting them out, thinking, let's just burn the express pass, because I can see a situation where they do get U-turned, and when it comes to the second part of the detour that they have to finish, they'll just use the express pass then. So, which is kind of a bummer. But fifth place goes to Todd and Ashley. Overall, not as good as I thought that they were going to do. There were just too many mistakes. I already mentioned them earlier. Ultimately, it just didn't seem like they had the best game sense, and they're like too nice. So there is a learning curve to the race, and so hopefully maybe these mistakes kind of sharpen them up, and so they can be a little bit more competitive, if you will. Next is Steve and Annalie. Oh, I definitely want to talk about this team, because it's not so much Steve that I had a big turnaround on. It's Annalie. She seems one of the more competitive people on this season. There were several just instances of her commenting on their place in the race and just trying to hustle. She was going down that tightrope super fast, and even though that's not the strategy I think you should be doing, I can definitely appreciate the hustle. I did not expect her to be as in it to win it. There was also a small scene where they were going into the spa day, and she was holding the additional info, and she told her dad, remove your shoes, because she clearly was reading the clue and was just like, take off your shoes. And they are also the first team to arrive to the pit stop from the second flight, which is out of 7 teams. So good on them. Next is Joel and Garrett. I wish I had more to comment on them, but I think they had more of a quiet episode, but there's nothing to dislike. The only thing that I did not like was one of them at the word puzzle challenge. I think Victor had told them the answer, and then he was like, let me double check. And it's like, no, don't double check. Like, you could have been in 4th place had you not double checked. Because by the time he double checked, then Todd told the answer to all of the teams, and Joel and Garrett were actually the last team to leave the challenge. So, anyhow, next team to arrive is, I don't even know what place they were. I think Liam and Yeremi. I think they're team 8. They somehow made a lot of ground, because they were in last place for quite a bit in Thailand. I was hard on them during the cast assessment because one of them said, I believe, they're going to use being positive, as a driver in the race. And I think that really did help them, because they were in last and they did not seem to beat themselves up about it. They just seemed resilient and were being positive with each other, and they came in 8th. So from 13th to 8th. So good on them. Joe and Ian definitely had a lot of ups and downs. They were good at navigating to the Biltmore, but not good at navigating to LAX. Then they chose the wrong side of the detour, but then they killed the wrong side of the detour well. So I think ultimately I think this was a good leg for them, in that they faced a lot of adversity and overcame it. And when you are racing to not be last rather than racing to be first, I think that's when you develop more character and more knowledge in how to navigate the race. So just because they didn't do as well as they think as I thought or they thought they were going to do, I think this was a good leg for them to kind of figure out the kinks in how they're running the race. Next is Andrea and Milena. They were another team that surprised me. I think they did really well, and they seemed to navigate to places pretty well, like to the Biltmore Hotel and then to LAX. They were part of the first flight, and like I said, even though they did drop down from one of the top place teams to I guess 10th place, it's ultimately a game of not being last, and that they did. That they did not get last. I also appreciated the reaction to the Express Pass challenge. They're like, nah, that's not it. We're not eating bugs. The next place team is Robin and Chelsea. I definitely empathized with, I believe it was Robin's background story. And their resilience definitely shone through. And I am excited to learn more about them throughout the season and see how they compete. But ultimately, they did not get more airtime than that. 12th place is Elizabeth and Ileana. The biggest issue they appear to have is their navigation. They need to just figure that. It seems like they got back. They got lost at every single point in the race. So they need to figure that out, because if they cannot figure that out, then I cannot see them lasting more than... I cannot see them getting to the second half of the season. But I really, really appreciated their decision-making, whether or not to switch the detours. And last but not least, we have Alexandra and Sheridan. I am not sorry to see them go. I thought they were great TV. Had they lasted longer, I think they would have gotten on my nerves. Not because, they... I mean, yes, they are not good at the race. I think the worst team that got eliminated this leg of the race. I'm a little bit bitter because when my cousin and I, this would have been the season that we would have gone and casted on. I mean, we submitted our video and we didn't get any response. It's not like we made any headway into that. But definitely we would have been casted as the more like nerdy team with the glasses and the surface level like smart team. And I feel like we could have done way better than this team. But I'm not saying, I deserve this spot better than them, because clearly they're more interesting than me. But yeah, I am not surprised at all that they got 13th place. So some other things about the season. I do not like it when they spoil which teams make it to which leg in the. So in the intro of this episode, there's like a little 1-minute montage of the teams going to all over the world, and if you paid close attention, you would know like which teams got to what country, and therefore which teams would not get eliminated in more of these earlier legs of the race. I skipped through it. I did not want to watch it, so I am still spoiler free. But I do not like that at all. Like, why would you do that? Especially in a type of show where it's about competition. You're just spoiling the season. Anyhow, I appreciated Derek and Claire being the being a part of the wordplay challenge. I like Derek psyching the teams out. Very on par with just how he is when he said, "Unfortunately, you are correct." I really like that. The prize of the show was the 1 key cash. I thought that was weird because how Phil worded it is like, you get cash and you can use it on a trip like Patagonia, but it's not like you want a trip to Patagonia. It's if you decide to go to Patagonia. So that was a little weird. And I thought this was a great premiere episode. It did seem like there was some like editing I don't know, there was some like weird editing where I think there were like some dead space or like dead silence, and it just seemed like it wasn't maybe as proofread as possible. Like this was not the final draft. But I did like the back and forth of Alexandra and Sheridan versus Liz and Ileana battling for last place or for 12th place. And to see like the timer go down with the spa day, it just made for exciting TV, even if the difference between 12th and 13th place was quite significant. So yeah, that's it for episode 1. This was way longer than I thought it would be. If it's too long, I mean, I'll try to shorten it down. Maybe I shouldn't go through. I don't think I'm gonna go through how every team did at the end of the episode. I think I just wanted to do that in this recap because it's the first episode, and I wanted to talk about each team at least something. So, because definitely this is going on for too long. But I am super excited. If you like this content, if you have any questions, like comment below. Obviously, I only have 17 subscribers, so I would like to get to know you guys more. If you have any questions for me, please comment. Okay, enough rambling. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.